Okay, welcome back to another episode of Talon Talks. Hello, Dale. How was your weekend?
Ah, it's fantastic. Nice weather, little fishing. Great.
Yeah, it was good right up till Sunday. It was questionable, but yeah, it's been a great weekend. We're happy to say this is our third episode, second guest, and we're happy to introduce somebody that he's been involved in the industry for a while, but once again, um, the views and opinions of the guests are just the views and opinions of that guest. So we'll just protect ourselves that way. Um, it's always nice to be talking in our industry, which is exploration. For this point, I know Dale, you have extensive background in the mining industry, but yeah, if you want to introduce our guest and bring them in, that'd be great.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'd like to welcome Nico De Lucia. I'm not sure I'm saying that properly, but he can tell me. Um, and he's a vice president of Matrix Camps. So that's a supplier of um, lodging and food to remote camps and exploration camps, mining camps, other industries as well. I'm sure he can describe some of that. So Nico has quite a few years in the business, and I believe he's fairly new to Matrix. So why don't we bring him in and let him describe what he does?
Hello,
Hi, Nico.
Nico.
Good afternoon, guys.
Welcome to our podcast. It's happy to Dale just did a very kind introduction to yourself, and we're just wondering if you can get a little bit more background on yourself and your
Yeah, of
company, and
course.
then we'd love to get into some questions and some discussion with you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, guys, for having me. I guess I'll start with just giving a brief introduction on who I am, and we can merge that into Matrix. So I've been I want to say in the food industry, pretty much my whole career. Just grew up working in restaurants and pushed that through my college and university studies. And I was always passionate about food service. I studied nutrition and then eventually business, but I kind of brought that all together when I started working in the food industry, always for catering or management of operations in commercial kitchens. And years back, I started my, kind of uh, an adventure in the mining space. So I would say energy and resources with one of my competitors at the time. But it's a small industry, so we all kind of know each other. But it's working in these camps was all new to me, and I started managing a commercial kitchen within a camp at a large site of about 3,000 occupants, and then moved on to different projects across Canada, and finally joined the Matrix team. As you can imagine, we do a bit of that as well. And like the name says, we're camps, logistics, and aviation. So camps is a big part of our business. I think the best way to define who we are is pretty much what we do, who we do it for, and who we do it with. And what we do is, if I can summarize it in four different categories, it's the camp services, where we look at subcategories within that. We look at camp management. We look at the assets part of it, which is all the equipment, the camps itself, different models of camps, whether it be soft wall, sleepers, modulars, kind of hybrid solutions, how we're getting it to a site, how we're installing it, and then how we manage it. How do we operate the subservices? So we took a look at different services like the food service, the housekeeping, janitorial, the general camp maintenance. So there's a variety of different positions within those categories. And then tying into that, I would say logistics comes in at another division where we organize and plan how we get these camps to a site, and not just the camps, but the people working on site, our staff, our clients' staff, how we're getting equipment, inventory up to the site. So what channels of transportation are we using, which then ties into the aviation piece, because some sites don't even have roads, so they're just completely remote. And then we have two other divisions. I guess the other biggest one that has been growing in the last couple of years is the mechanical division, which we look at, the equipment maintenance, technicians on site, heavy duty mechanics, diagnostics programs, just kind of overseeing maintenance on machinery, equipment, and all the training around that. And then the last one is a bit more complex, but I'll say it anyway. It's kind of a specialty category, or specialty services. And here we look at, again, tying into the logistics piece, is how do we get to a certain site? And that aviation plays a big role. And sometimes we have to build roads, and namely ice roads, winter roads, landing strips, sea lift management. So we look at all these kind of different sub-services that define who we are. Pretty much just says that we are experts in working on site in a very remote area. So I can't say that remote is a specific industry, but if I were to say the industries, it would be mostly the mining industry. A lot of our clients are within the exploration phases. So you're looking at exploration companies, junior mining companies, and then that moves into producing mines. So there's a lot of, I guess, diversification in that. And who do we do it with, lastly, and most importantly? And I don't know if you'll touch that a bit soon, Robert, but we have a full staff across Canada. Apart from our head offices where we have our teams, kind of our human resource teams and operational teams, we have a whole frontline staff in every single operation of ours. The positions vary from site to site, but we're probably hovering at about, I want to say, 300 to 400 employees, because some of the work is seasonal, and division per division or service per service, it kind of varies. So we do business in the mining industry. We do business in forestry and oil and gas, energy and resources. Anything that's kind of remote is a good fit for us.
That's a very great intro, Nico. I know Dale and myself have been most recently involved with the project out just east of Val-d'Or, and Dale could probably speak a little more to that, but that was a remote camp situation where we looked at setting up softwall, and maybe that would be somewhere that we would I guess like to add to the discussion a little bit. Dale, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of our discussion, one of the key components is, as far as Talon is concerned, is hiring, training the local population, right? And so one of my questions for Nico would be, what's your philosophy and how has your experience been in terms of training and hiring? Because procurement, this is a big part of it, is key to operating in these remote areas, and getting your social license and whatnot to actually operate.
Adele, you touch on a very serious topic, and that kind of brings a couple of important values to the discussion. When we look at remote work, first and foremost, we know that most of the time we're working on indigenous territories, with First Nation lands, and the importance of that is that we have to put ourselves in a position to create a relationship early on. So we're very fortunate to be on these projects from the get-go, and that gives us the advantage of spending time within a community, getting to understand the community members, who they are, what's important to them, what's important to the community, and then we tie into the whole kind of business aspect of a project. So when a company intends to do work on a certain territory, I think what determines the success is how we do it together, and how we kind of share the information internally together, and how do we make decisions together. Because when we look at the scope of work that's needed, and even looking at our own services, maybe we don't have as many staff as there would be for the mining company per se, or the exploration company per se, but we need to source locally. We need to gain access to resources locally, and that provides kind of a win-win-win scenario for ourselves, for the community, for the client. We've worked on projects where we've sent people, from other projects, or from outside of province, and that can, escalate quite quickly when it comes to looking at costs to that. So, there's a big financial reward to hiring locally, but more than that, I think we need to highlight the economic development and the social responsibility that we have within a project and community. And like you said it perfectly. When it comes to hiring and training, what do we do and how do we do it? And where we've seen the most success is really being engaged and having a presence in a community. When we go into the community and we talk to, chief and council, or we talk to the members, to the board, we sit down and we say, well, how do we get ourselves involved directly in the community? How do we get ourselves a hiring hub here? How do we speak to the community members? How do we hire directly and do our training? And for our scope, I guess for the camp services scope, it's straightforward, because you don't need a whole lot of experience. So that's kind of works in our favor, I would say. But then when you start looking at different divisions, like I've mentioned, with with mechanical or with more complex roles, where training is really important, and apprenticeship programs are important. We have all that, but it's how do we give community access to that? So we have a role to play in that, and the greater we assume that role, I think the more it correlates to the success of the project. Because if we don't do that, it won't be a sustainable, not sustainable relationship, and we won't see any rewards and synergies. So we need to really step our foot down when it comes to that stuff, and I think that's how we've seen a lot of our success in the last 25 years of being in businesses, is really positioning ourselves within a community and doing it with the community members, because we can't just do it alone, really. And I think that's kind of the main message that I wanted to put forth, is that the importance of building the relationship really goes a long way. And I think that we can't replace that with anything. So yeah, we have great human resource team. We have, we're really good at managing that, and especially in the nature of our business, where some of the work is seasonal, so we have to kind of turn over staff and move staff from project to project. But the more we get involved locally, the easier it is for everybody, and the reward is just kind of shared that way. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, Nico, it's you touched on a lot of key areas. Obviously the relationship is key, and that's a theme that our podcast has been really working on, and I guess it seems to be growing growing organically that way, I would say, like the relationship building, and that's obviously one of the key areas. The one thing that I've chatted with you about in the past, and um, it really caught me, it really intrigued me, is that you were trying to gear towards exploration. Camp services typically are into existing mines and not that side of it. The I guess if you could explain to me a little bit, I know it's a challenge because obviously, that's our background, it's exploration, and you obviously want to hit, right?
Yeah.
So you're kind of taking a chance in laying it out, and you're doing your best case scenario. I'm sure of it. So if you could explain that side of it, because I know we always try and get the communities to step up and invest in projects. So it obviously makes it attractive down the line. So maybe you could explain a little bit of what your thought process for that was.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's a good question because we try to add value to a project. Okay. And when it's important to look at it from the bigger picture and then work downwards. In the big picture, I think you said it perfectly, Robert. These exploration and junior miners, they're trying to find something. They're trying and they're trying to do it in a way where they're being cost conscious, and really they want to focus on, I guess, two areas. Really, it's the drilling and the geology, or whichever method they choose to see the results they're looking for. So when we look at that, and I'm trying to simplify, but when we look at that, it's how do we support that program around it, and how do we actually complement the program? And the answer to that is that we need to understand the program. So a lot of our discussions when we talk to exploration companies, we spend a lot of time in trying to understand what they're trying to do, what are the limitations, what are their controls in place, because we don't just want to propose anything or pitch our services. When we put something forth, it's going to be a solution to a challenge or a solution to a problem. And the challenge is that it's remote. So maybe they don't have access to resources, or they don't have the luxuries of certain accommodations or amenities, and or maybe they need specific site services, and that's why we've become such a diverse company, is that you start somewhere, and your expertise kind of grows when you're dealing with different clients in different areas, and as that client grows. So we grow and evolve with the client. So we'll start off by maybe saying, well, I think you need some logistics. First of all, how do we get your people onto the site? Do we manage a program, an aviation program for you to get to get fuel into the site, to get your geologists into the site, to get equipment onto the site so you can do your work? And does it go beyond that? And eventually, once the program starts to grow, they find themselves in need of some comfort and some accommodations. So let's get in a small camp now. What does that camp consist of? What kind of format? How do we make it efficient? So then we take a look at the systems within the camp, the insulation of the camp, the heating, the power, the water sources, and then anything else that's considered to be an accommodation piece to that, to their stay. Because when they're doing their work, they're in the middle of nowhere. They're there for long periods of time. So we want to make it, I guess, comfortable, but also allow them to focus on what they're doing, and to be productive on the areas that they want to be pursuing. And in most cases, it's geology and drilling and work on site. So our approach is always to try to come in with an open mind, just be very attentive to what's going on, and then brainstorming the solutions together. And that's how we kind of come up with our proposals and the tailored service to the client. So when you look at client to client and program to program, it's never the same. It's quite different all the time, or 99% of the time, really.
Well, it's find it a very challenging industry, because you'll never get the best out of your employees, or they'll never be happy if the food's not great or the accommodations aren't up to par. And you always want to have the best out of your employees, so you want to, treat them the best you possibly can. And you're also diving and dodging with markets rising and falling, and especially in the junior space. You have a variety, I assume, of sizes of these camps, like probably from 10 people to, like you said, thousands of people. So, and a variety of locations and conditions. High Arctic, water, with air access only. It's all over the map, right? So
yeah,
I think it's an interesting piece of the business, right? And then top it all off, you've got the challenge of hiring local and training people, and I know you want to do that as much as you can. I know we try to do that as much as we can in exploration as well. So it's a very interesting business. I'm kind of curious about the transportation arm that sounds like you are growing that part of the business.
Yeah. And just to touch on what you just said, Dale, it's the camp is specific to the project. And sometimes we'll see maybe a couple of individuals working on the site, and exploration can vary depending on what they're doing. So it varies. So we'll see maybe as little as a couple of individuals all the way through 10, 20, 30, 40 and beyond. So when we look at a camp or that accommodations piece, that's how we identify what we think might work. So we have a variety of products, and you may have seen them already, but you look at these tent styles, you look at, we actually manufacture our own sleepers, these 9x13 sleeper units, which have single and double occupancy, and which could be transported via helicopter. So they're quite light in respect to the traditional camp. And that's cool because we can literally sling that with a helicopter and bring it to a very remote site. And then when we grow out of that, most of the time we fall into a modular format. So when you look at modular camps, or drill camps would be in the range of, let's say, 30 to 50 people. And then beyond that goes into some larger modular camps where we have different units, dorms with kitchen, rec rooms, and all that kind of stuff. So it's, the capacity's there. And I'm proud to say that because we've grown to that point where we can do it all. But our roots are definitely in the exploration space. And it's been organic in a way where we've grown with our clients, and as our clients see success, we see success as well because of their growth and the amount of staff that they're bringing onto the site. So the important piece around all this is that we want our clients to know that we're very aware of the costs behind it, and that's why we try to find a balance between what it's going to cost them to put something on the site versus what their savings are. So we try to find that justification. So if a camp is going on site, it's because we're trying to find them savings elsewhere. We're trying to maybe reduce the amount of aviation being done on site, or the amount of transportation going back and forth, because that can really really increase costs significantly. So again, we look at it from a whole, and where it works is when we find those efficiencies and we find the savings, and we make it make sense that way. And saying, well, you're gonna invest in this, but in return you'll gain this. And I think and I'm keen on that approach. I'm very keen on a financial kind of angle to these projects. But then again, once we pass that, it's all focused on what kind of quality we're giving, what kind of comforts are we giving, what kind of quality food, what's the what amenities are we providing them, and keeping them kind of happy, and connected. So this is kind of the expertise that we've developed over the years. So it's never the same. Project per project is always going to be completely different.
That's what makes it interesting, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a lot to digest, Nico. We really appreciate you finding time in your day to stop in and chat a little bit about this, share some expertise with Matrix, your company. That's Nico De Lucia, the Vice President of Matrix. This is we're happy to have had you on, and you've covered a whole lot of information in a short amount of time.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, I just try to. I'll let that sink in for a bit, and hopefully you can digest that well. And it's a they say it's a big industry, but it's a small world. We kind of all know each other, and what I really commend about what you guys are doing is bringing in all the angles into the industry, and all the stakeholders, and building that awareness. I think that's extremely important, and I'm very honored to be a part of that and share this tiny portion of the industry. So thank you, guys. I really appreciate you guys having me on this.
We'll talk again for sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Thanks, guys.
Okay, Nico, thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Very interesting. Very interesting. His end of the business.
Yeah. No, it's a big. He's running a big business there.
He's talking air, logistics,
mechanical,
food,
all that stuff is huge.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I know it's a challenge for us when we try and shop around for who's available where and what.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
Yeah, we're looking forward to our next episode. We'll keep everybody tuned. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and head over to our Talon webpage, and you can keep up to date with who we'll have on next and when our next episode will be Thursday. We skipped this past Thursday because of the long weekend, and now we're into a short week again, but we're able to get this done. We have some exciting guests coming up, and we'll look forward to doing this again. With that, myself signing off, and Dale.
Sounds good, Rob. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.